This is Colleen Stan, often called the girl in the box. She was kidnapped, tortured, and locked in a coffin-sized box up to 23 hours a day for over 7 years. But the scariest part, she could have escaped much earlier. This is the story of a woman who lost everything and yet made an incredible escape that should have been impossible. Colleen Stan was a 20-year-old athlete from Eugene, Oregon. On May 19, 1977, she set out for a friend's birthday in California. An experienced hitchhiker, she even turned down a couple of rides before accepting one from Cameron and Janice Hooker, a young couple with a baby. She thought this must be safe, but she couldn't have been more wrong. Just a few miles later, on a secluded dirt road, Cameron put a knife against her. He then forcibly gagged her, stripped her, and put a wooden box on her head, blocking all sound and light. She was then bound and put in the back of the vehicle. Unbeknownst to her, this ride would mark the beginning of a 7-year-long life of torture and hell.
I was very frightened, and of course I'm just wondering, what are these people going to do to me? Are they going to kill me? Are they going to rape me?
Back at the Hooker's home, the torture started immediately. Colleen was hung by her wrists, whipped repeatedly, and made to endure whatever instruments Cameron chose. Cameron's wife Janice would also join in occasionally as per Cameron's orders. Cameron's twisted fantasy was to have a slave of his own. He forced Colleen to sign a master-slave contract that in his mind enslaved her to eternal servitude. She was then bound and locked into a small coffin-like wooden box where she was kept for up to 23 hours a day under Cameron and Janice's bed.
Once I signed the contract, he started bringing me upstairs to do things like clean the kitchen, do the dishes, mop the floor, whatever, do stuff like that.
If you think this can't get more twisted, just wait. The physical misery was only half the horror. The psychological torture was even worse. Cameron's most powerful weapon was the company. He told Colleen that the company is watching her every move, and if she ever tried to escape, both she and her family would be captured and tortured to death. This lie was so deeply ingrained that despite multiple chances to escape, the fear of the company and her love for her family kept her from leaving.
I tried to be a good slave because I was too afraid of the company.
For the next 7 years, the Hookers lived a seemingly normal life. They moved into a mobile home, and Janice even gave birth to their second child on the very bed where Colleen was still confined. Cameron continued to assault Colleen, often with brutal instruments, and he kept meticulous records of her obedience and punishments. He refused to allow her to speak, except to say master or sir when prompted. If Colleen disobeyed, Cameron warned that the company would be alerted to torture or kill their loved ones.
I truly and honestly believed in the company and that they would hurt me.
During all this time, the only things that kept her sane were her love for her family and her faith in God. But here's the part that messes with your head. As the years passed, Cameron rewarded Colleen with small, controlled freedoms as she complied. She was allowed more time out of the box, performed chores around the house, and even babysat the Hooker's 2 unsuspecting children. By 1981, Colleen was even allowed a 24-hour visit to see her family.
He said that the company had okayed it for me to go and have a visit with my family.
A photo taken during that visit shows Colleen and Cameron smiling, appearing as a happy couple.
She introduced him as her boyfriend, I think, and then I didn't see him again till...
She was right there in her parents' house and didn't say a word. She could have screamed, she could have run, but she didn't. Why? Colleen would later testify, "I felt it wasn't an option at that time. I really felt that I'd be hurt and other people would be hurt if I went against them." This is a textbook example of trauma bonding, where victims become psychologically attached to their captors out of desperate need for survival. This wasn't just fear, this was programming. Imagine loving your family so much that you stay in hell to protect them. So what changed? How did she finally manage to escape? Her deliverance would come from the most unexpected places of all, from Janice Hooker herself. For years, Janice was complicit in Colleen's abuse. Cameron manipulated his wife too, using religious beliefs that she would go to hell if she didn't obey him. But Janice had always felt guilt and fear. After 7 years, she reached her tipping point. Janice went to church and sought spiritual help and counsel from the pastor. In August 1984, Janice told Colleen the truth behind the company and that she could leave without repercussions.
She says, the whole thing's a lie. And I'm thinking, oh my God, how could I believe this? And why is she waiting all this time to come to me and tell the truth? I mean, this is over 7 years later.
She then helped Colleen escape by secretly driving her to the bus station and providing her with a fare. While on the bus, Colleen called Cameron and said her final farewell. Cameron would later describe this as a hard and tearful farewell. Even after all that, Colleen never went to the police. Janice had asked Colleen not to go to the authorities, believing Cameron could be changed. But 3 months later, with encouragement from her pastor, Janice herself went to the police and told the entire story in exchange for immunity. In November 1984, officers arrested Cameron Hooker at his home. Police searched his house and found Colleen's kept belongings, the wooden confinement box, the headboards and shackles, and even the signed slave contract. Cameron's trial began in 1985. Both Janice and Colleen testified for the prosecution, and Cameron was found guilty on all counts. He was sentenced to 104 years in prison for his crimes. The judge called him the most dangerous psychopath I have ever encountered. Despite multiple attempts to get paroled, Cameron remains in custody to this day. After her escape, Colleen rebuilt her private life in Northern California. By 2008, she was working as a secretary, and she later married and raised a daughter and a grandson. She wrote a memoir in 2009, The Simple Gifts of Life, and has occasionally given interviews about her ordeal. Colleen Stan lost 7 years, but not herself. She survived, and that alone is one of the most remarkable things you'll ever hear.